So I always encourage younger people, go out there and really get your name out there. If you have that certain talent or certain skill that someone's looking for, it has to be discovered somehow. Someone has to see it, or if you do that one session, the keyboard player might go, hey man, I know this guy that really fits your style and he's doing this record. That's how I started doing it in LA.
Ray, I'm so happy that you're here because
I'm happy to be here.
You have a story and an energy and a life that is so exciting, and you maintain performance at the highest level. I have done many events with you. I've been with you. You always are at the top of your game, and rarely giving 100%. You're always giving 110%.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. Thank
that
you.
really is consistently what you do.
Thank you.
Where did music enter your life and drumming? Where did this all begin?
A lot of people know I was born and raised on a farm in the middle of nowhere in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. 118 acres. I didn't know any bands. I didn't know. All I knew was what my parents played. So they would play the Beatles, Chuck Berry, Elvis, Zeppelin, anything. But they played it a lot. They were great music lovers. They didn't play any instruments, but they just had a great appreciation and admiration for music. So it was always on in the car, at the house. They had the old records, and I would steal my sister's 45s and her records when she'd go to the mall. And I just, lo and behold, like through the years, I just started tapping on things, and my parents got me my first kit when I was 6. And I've got a Junior Pro CB700 with camber cymbals and those old things. Annihilated it in like 2 months. And so the next year they went, well, let's get him something a little bit more beefy than that. So I went to a Ludwig and basically self-taught until I went to junior high, and I didn't know what a quarter note was. I just played to Zeppelin, Rush, Kiss, Ozzy, Sabbath, whoever appealed to me.
So you're listening to records at that time?
Yes.
You're buying LPs?
Yes.
And you put them on and just playing along to whatever music you had fun with?
Anything that attracted me. I always knew when I put on Back in Black and then Moving Pictures from Rush, it was a lot harder to get through Moving Pictures. I couldn't quite get through but you don't know when you're 8, 9.
Right.
You just know what sounds cool. I didn't even know what the hi-hats were for at the time. You're just like, every once in a while I'd just step on them and But it's like I just knew inside that I had this passion and love for it at a very, very young age, and the flame never went out, ever. It just kept growing and growing. And when I got to junior high, when I started getting into jazz band, concert, symphonic, marching band, now it's like the disciplinary things would come in hand. Like you're holding a set of crash cymbals, counting 32 bars, waiting for that one hit, you know what I mean? Where at home, I'm just rocking out, so now I'm learning to read minor, small things.
Yeah.
I always try to, I couldn't wait to finish my homework, put my books down and start wailing,
How important was the music school program for you?
Super important.
Interesting, because we're losing them now.
And it's breaking my heart. It kills me. Every time I hear another school, so one of my good friends in LA called me up and said, hey, this school, is the music program ended, and they're pretty much throwing these timpanis and all these marching drums away. And I'm like, I was gasping for air. I'm like, because I can't imagine my life without, my algebra teachers would just, I got so many band passes to get, to go in the band room that they would just be like, just go, Ray. We know you're going to do that, and A plus B is not your thing. So it's killing me, and it was such a vital thing for me. I couldn't wait for the next marching competition, for the next jazz performance at another school. I mean, we really, to some people, or some students, it was just an activity, but I took it so serious because it was, and in the marching band, we had a guy right out of Germany that just left a Army squad, and he was like, you guys, the drum line will get here an hour before the band, you'll leave an hour after. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? But you're getting the DC-10s out, and he's making us do these rolls, and you get home on your kit and pick up a pair of 5Bs or whatever you had, and you're flying.
And you fly,
But you don't really understand it because you're still young and you're still learning, but I can't believe that the school programs are.
And think about the great influence that has, you are who you are because of those early influences.
Absolutely.
Of what happened. And think about the loss of having those programs now and what you learned. But you also, it seems like you took a lot of discipline out of that. There was a lot of discipline that came from being a part of that you still maintain at a high level today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's life lasting for sure.
Right.
I mean, I think back and when you have to wait for a certain bar count in or something, that all goes back to my high school and marching in a drum line and sidestepping diagonally while you're trying to remember what patafla and paradiddle you're supposed to play next, and there's all this stuff. You don't think about it because you're in the moment then, but it all makes you grow. And I can't even believe how vital it was for me in my life. Especially my last 2 years, my 11th and 12th grade, I pretty much lived in the band room. So, and then lo and behold, I went to 118 acre farm to Hollywood Boulevard. So talk about just a hair bit of a culture shock. Yeah, I didn't even go to Pittsburgh much unless I went to see a Kiss concert or a Ozzy concert. So I didn't know what the city was, let alone living in an apartment with people above, below me on the side. So I wanted to go. Education's huge in my family. My mother retired as a principal of 3 schools. My aunt, my uncle, 2 of my uncles are educators, so it's really big in my family.
Nice.
My mom's like, I don't care if you go to Mars, you're going to go to school somewhere. So the closest to Mars was LA. So I just wanted a 24-hour music school. I was done with the history and the algebra I just wanted to learn the history of drums. I wanted to learn, I didn't know anything but rock. And so I wanted to learn funk, reggae, Latin,
Which brought you to MI, Musicians Institute. You go there as a student.
Yeah.
You start learning, you start opening up your mind.
Yeah.
People that you met, teachers that you met. What was that like?
Insane staff at the time. It was Ralph Humphrey, Joe Porcaro, Casey Sherrill, Chuck Flores, Tim Pedersen, Steve Houghton. I mean, the staff was insane.
Fantastic educators and players,
And I'm right off the farm thinking I'm like hot, like check me out, watch this lick. And they're all just like, dude, you better get a metronome. And I'm like, huh? I mean, I literally got my butt handed to me because I didn't know. No one really told me anything. I thought, I was the big stuff at York High School in Hermione, Pennsylvania. And at that time, it was only a year program, and they packed so much stuff into that 1 year. It was numbing because you're going to Steve Houghton, and he's throwing an 8-page chart in front of you. I could barely read anything. He's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and I'm like, there's a 13-piece horn section. And I'm like, he's like, come on, man, you with us or not? It was hardcore. I got thrown to the wolves.
That is baptism by fire.
Dude, at that time, there was no real rock teachers.
Right.
They touched upon it a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
Taka Numazawa from Japan was this kind of funk teacher in rock, and that was about it. And so I was really bummed because I was like, well, what about us? It was like me and this other Swedish metalhead guy that in the double bass labs going all day long because that's what we knew, and we're trying to learn all this other stuff and reading, and it was pretty intense. So again, I still open up those books years, decades later and say, I remember that one thing Chuck Flores was showing me because my main gigs are rock, pop, funk, metal, again with a lifelong lasting thing.
But you always seem to me as being a constant learner.
Oh yeah.
And that's something which is very impressive.
Every single day I learn something, and that old saying is true, you learn something new every day. In this business, that's the beauty about what we do. You never ever reach that plateau. And I always tell people, if you do, then it might be time to do something else or maybe take up something, because there's no way you could possibly learn everything. I mean, I was, a few years after I graduated from Musicians Institute, they asked me, Ralph called me and asked me to be a teacher I'm like 22 years old. Why am I going to teach? And he's like, well, there's no rock guys here, and if you present us with a double bass curriculum, just something basic, we'll start you out. And I started 3 hours a week, and that led to 33 hours eventually, a couple years down the road.
Absolutely. But I've spoken to Ralph about that. I interviewed Ralph here for the Sessions panel. A brilliant player and teacher and educator at so many levels of what he does. But he mentioned they saw something special in you that they knew could really be offered for a Musicians Institute at that time. Wow. So they believed in you at that early age. That's pretty impressive.
And that's heavy, man, because everyone thinks that I must have aced all my classes because I was a teacher immediately, and to be honest, I didn't. I got through okay, and obviously I passed everything, but I didn't ace anything by any form. I still had a lot to learn, and I still go back, and because there's every day and every time my band KoRn does a lot of festivals, so we play with everyone from a reggae band to a ska to a whatever, and something blows my mind almost daily on the road, because I'll go to some side stage and watch this 20-year-old just hungry drummer just killing it on this, and he's just playing stuff that I'm like, what are you doing? It's like I can't even fathom some of it, because but it's exciting, it's like when you've had as much experience as myself and yourself have had, you learn off the youth that are coming up.
Right.
You learn from obviously our forefathers that
Right.
showed us everything,
Yeah.
all the Gads and the Belsons and the Buddy Riches, and it's a never-ending learning experience.
But it's never ending for you specifically because you really have an open mind. And I think that's a very important aspect that I've always been impressed with you, that you'll learn all styles. When they see you with KoRn, sometimes people put you in this category, but you can play all styles. You can do
try.
it all, and you do. Much like guys like that are in this industry that have that ability to do that.
Yeah.
You're there doing it at that
Yeah.
point. So
I try to be a session guy in LA, and in LA, especially at the time when there were more sessions than there are now available, more guys, they would call you up and, hey, can you play these 3 songs in swing? I'm like, yes, I can. And in my head, I'm like, no, you can't. But I'm going to go in there and give it the best shot I possibly can. And I would swing and I would play a bossa nova and I would get through the session because it wasn't burning stuff. It was just mild stylistic challenges,
Right.
So, but I would do my homework. I definitely would. I did a country session, and I tell you what, people for years back, especially back in the '90s, would say, "Oh, country is an easy style." There is a groove and that train beat, and there's a thing that you have to become a part of. You don't just sit there and play a train beat.
You got to live it.
You got to be in it.
Yeah, you got to live it. Yeah.
So I remember back in the day, Richie Garcia and Efren Toro, they would just give me stacks of CDs and go, "Ray, God bless you. Here, man." And they were just, I'm like, I don't know what they meant by that, but I better start listening to these because I was just so like white off the farm, and I didn't listen to that. It's like, there's not really a bossa nova on the latest AC/DC record. So.
But what's amazing is these names that you've mentioned. And part of what is important about these interviews is that when these names are being mentioned, like you have just mentioned, Richie Garcia and Efren Toro, Ralph Humphrey, Joe Porcaro, all these great names, Steve Houghton.
Yeah.
I ask everyone to go and Google these names, research these people, because these are names that you really should understand who they were because they were influential in who you are.
Yeah.
And if someone likes your style and your sound, you got to go back to who influenced you and who you learned from to understand more of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So it needs that kind of process.
Yes.
You go on, you're doing it. How'd the audition for KoRn come up?
Through LA was a very, everyone knows the music business is a fickle kind of business as it is, You don't know. I have many virtuoso guitar player friends working at a coffee shop. Some people don't get that break. Some people, it's a networking thing. There's so much more to it than just, when I moved to LA, I would just lock myself in a drum lab for 6 hours a day, go eat dinner and play with my band from 8 to midnight. And that was pretty much my routine for like years because I'm like, my mentality was wrong at the time because I told myself, I'm gonna get so good that no one's gonna be able to turn me down.
Right.
What was I thinking? There's no best. There's the right guy for the job, maybe the right guy temporarily for the job. You know what I mean? Sometimes they're in the right place at the right time. You have to have the talent and the skill, but you also have to be out there networking. So it took me a few years, I would say 5 or 6 years, to really understand that. I had friends playing a straight beat, but they could nail a click track and not move for 5 minutes, and they're getting big, massive gigs, and I'm like, God, I'm here just shredding all day. How come I'm not getting a gig? Well, no one knew who's Ray Luzier. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't, and at that time I didn't even drink a beer. So I'm one of those weirdo rockers. I've never done a drug in my life. I drink a glass of red wine a night. That's my.
Good for you.
That's my thing.
Don't
do drugs, kids. If you don't start it, you don't have to stop it. That's all I'll say.
Good
But it's true. But my point is, I wouldn't be at the clubs hanging out at the Troubadour Whiskey, handing out my business card, getting to know people, having a beer. I'd be shredding at my lab in between these 4 walls. So I always encourage younger people, go out there and really get your name out there. If you have that certain talent or certain skill that someone's looking for, it has to be discovered somehow. Someone has to see it, or if you do that one session, the keyboard player might go, hey man, I know this guy that really fits your style and he's doing this record. That's how I started doing it in LA.
Right.
I would do one session, they'd be like, hey man, there's this session coming up that I think you'd be great for. Boom, I'd start getting my number.
So word of mouth, networking, you're getting out, people are hearing you, you're starting to play, you're meeting these contacts, David Lee Roth, all these different things that are popping up, right?
Yes. I did a session for this kid named Mike Hartman. He passed away, God bless him. Greg Bissonette was on the record. Next thing you know, he's like, hey, David Lee Roth's going to recut these tracks but do vocals over them. And I'm like, you never know where it's going to take you. I just got hired to do 2 songs on this kid's record. Next thing you know, I'm in David Lee Roth for 8 years. I mean, that's you know what I mean? That stuff happens. Everyone always said, how'd you get that gig? I just did a session. Dave sang over it. Next thing you know, the manager calls me the next day, said, you passed the audition with flying colors. And next thing you know, we're going on tour. I'm the MD of the band the last 3 years.
Unbelievable.
The weirdest thing.
Unbelievable. Musical director, here you are booking the guys, getting it going.
Just doing it.
But again, those disciplines that you learned from school and from your younger days,
yes,
you start to apply now as an MD.
Big time.
And maintaining the drum chair, which is not an easy chair.
No, no.
You're pushing it hard, you're doing your thing. Tell the story about your preparation when you went to do the audition for KoRn.
After David Lee Roth, I was in a short-lived band called Army of Anyone with the Stone Temple Pilot guys.
Right.
They were managed by the firm. The firm also managed KoRn. So it was funny because I called up my manager and I said, what's going on with KoRn? They have all these, Joey Jordison from Slipknot's filling in, and I heard they have Terry Bozzio playing on the record. He's like, yeah, this guy's got like 97 drums. And I'm like, yeah, that's Terry. He's doing the KoRn. Are you, like, what is going on, And so anyway, Brooks Wackerman did a couple tracks. Even the singer, Jonathan, who's a really good drummer, did a couple tracks on the Untitled record.
Interesting.
Yeah, right before I got the gig.
Yeah.
And he says they're really looking for a drummer. Well, as the Army of Anyone was on its demise, unfortunately, he called me up and he goes, hey man, you should audition for KoRn. I'm like, what? I don't look anything like them. I don't have any tattoos. I haven't partied. I'm not from Bakersfield, California. The list went on and on. He's like, yeah, but you got that style, that flavor they want. They want fire. They want fury behind them. And they go, think about the original drummer. He had a short surfer haircut.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that's true. Long story short, I was on a clinic tour up the West Coast one time. Joey's last gig filling in for KoRn. It was in Seattle. I was in a clinic in Portland, Oregon. They flew me down in an empty arena in Seattle, Joey's last show.
Right.
They rented me a 5-piece kit. It was a little dinky kit, and I look behind me, and Joey's is on this 12-foot riser, and it's just like, And I'm like, oh, what am I doing? This is so bizarre. Of course no one shows up. It's noon, and the crew guys are looking at me like, dude, what are you doing here? This is the last show of this tour. The guys aren't coming, I'm telling you right now. And I'm like, cool. Awesome. I'm like, what am I, the hum of the PA, I'm just like, an hour goes by, the guitar player, James Schaefer, walks in, eating a sandwich. Man, I'm really sorry, it's the last show of the tour. We're just, packing, and it's cool, it's cool. What do you know? Well, they told me to learn 6 songs for the audition. And I always tell people, do your homework, be prepared. When I got the Jakey Lee gig from Ozzy Osbourne, I researched all his Ozzy gigs, all his albums he played on, all the Badlands records he played on. I learned everything. Walked in, I played the 3 songs, but I also said, let's play something else, So KoRn gave me 6 songs. I learned 33, as best as I could.
But this is preparation at its best.
I didn't want any. If they threw a curveball at me, I wanted to go, yeah, no problem, And Terry, whom a big influence of mine is Terry Bozzio. He played on the newest record, and I just couldn't wait to tackle that because I love his playing.
Absolutely.
So I was begging them. I'm like, yeah, it was the big KoRn hits that sold them 42 million copies.
Yeah.
But I wanted to play the new stuff that Terry would. And they kept bobbing and weaving. I go, hey, how about Everbee? Because Everbee was one of the songs Terry played. Yeah, let's just stick to the hits. And I'm like, oh, come on. It's like, let's just do Everbee. And I kept pushing it. And when I did it, they're like, wow, that's a really challenging song to play. And I'm like, yeah, but I love it. You don't understand. This is my thing. And next thing you know, 6 songs goes by, which only 2 of them are the ones they told me to learn. They said, well, we're going to go to dinner and talk it over. And I was like, usually you kind of know right off the bat, unless they're deciding. And I go, oh, cool. And I started ripping the cymbal down. And next thing you know, camera this way, camera in my face. And they go, welcome to KoRn, you got the gig. And we'll see you in Dublin. And it's on YouTube. You can watch my audition.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
It's just type in Ray Luzier audition. And you can see my face. I'm just kind of like, cool, man, this is going to be great. Because what? What are you talking about? I had long blonde hair. 11 years now.
Boy, but you hit the ground running with the band. I mean, you really just performed and played and show after show and at a consistent level. I've seen you play. It's really at a high level.
Thanks. Yeah, work
all
hard.
the time.
Yeah.
All the time. It's hard work.
Yeah. And every time it's funny because we'll go out there, like we'll be on a Japanese tour or Russia or something where, guys, let's just take it easy tonight. It never happens that way.
Yeah.
Because every time it hits your brain, right before you hit the deck and you hear the roar of that crowd, these people paid money to see their favorite band or one of their favorite bands. And it's pedal to the metal. You know, there's not exactly love ballads in my band, so there's no slowing down. The only break I get is when Jonathan plays his bagpipes, and I'm like the backstage, you know, we love it. We get off on the adrenaline. It's you know, like you said, it's 110%. We can't do it any other way.
Absolutely.
And even that we're all 46, 47, 48 now, no one's a puppy in the band anymore. It doesn't matter.
But it goes to show you that age doesn't really matter in this process. What matters is your level of commitment, and I think that's really where the lesson is. That your level of commitment is at such a high level, and the band is in your face all the time, and that level of commitment just shows that it's really about how you can take care of your life, prepare yourself, and give all you can give every performance.
Yes, absolutely. And the fans expect that. You can't BS the fans. They know. They know. They're not stupid. The fans know when someone's doing it for a paycheck. They're going through the motion, especially the older bands. They're kind of like, let's do these couple of hits, get it over with. The fans know that. But some of them, they don't care because they just want to hear their favorite songs that got them through their childhood.
Right.
KoRn is a different animal because when we do these meet and greets, there's people coming up to Jonathan crying their eyes out saying, you got me through a divorce, you got me through a death in my family, you got me through, the music's way more powerful than we all are.
Right.
And the band knows that. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like you can see it on their faces. I mean, you know, Jonathan, especially back in the earlier days, sang about a lot of things that he went through, and it appealed to a lot of the masses, which is kind of heart-wrenching sometimes because it's to see that, you know, we attract those kind of people that have gone through some messed up situations. But there's lifers out there. There's KoRn people that have seen 87 shows. There's a girl in Germany, Jonathan's tattooed, beautiful portrait tattooed on all the album covers down her. You know, I have my name's on her. I mean, 87 shows. She will literally take 2 weeks off of work and go to 2 weeks in Europe, and she's like, this is food for my soul. This is so.
But think of that level of dedication that you have brought about, and you've done it not only with the band KoRn, but individually with drummers themselves. You know, you mentioned players like Terry Bozzio. That's another name that should be researched and looked into. Terry is a living legend in our industry, and the fact that you then started pulling from him and all these different artists that you've pulled from. The Sessions is about trying to give information for this next generation to understand that they have the potential to live their dream, whatever that dream may be, involved in the music industry, because here you are living this dream so crystal clear on what you do. In closing, what would you say to the next generation of musicians and drummers and artists that are out there, that you can give them some kind of a hope and a palette that they can use this to pursue their dream?
You know, it's funny because people come up to me and they say like, well, the fire's got to be going down. You're in the 40s now, and it's got that flame. I'm like, no, the flame is brighter than it's ever been. Because you know, I have a family now, and I have a career, and I have there's the longevity thing. I knew I'd be doing this till the day I died, whether I was rich, poor, famous band, local band. I didn't care. And when you take an oath like that, like I did, you have to commit. Do you know what I'm saying? Like leaving your family. You know, I left 2,600 miles away. I left my family in Pennsylvania to pursue this. And I think back, I'm like, Ma, what were you thinking? Why'd you do that? You dropped me off in Hollywood. Like what? You know. But they knew that I had this burning in me, and it's like, so I always tell up and comers, like, you have to really be passionate, and you got to lean forward. There's nothing. Don't let anyone get in your way. You know how many people told me I couldn't do this? Tons. So many people said, like, Ray, you know you're gonna have to go get a jobby job. This is gonna be good on the weekends. You can play on the weekends. And I'm like, no, I'll do this. Watch me. You know. And that hasn't been an easy road. It's been a lot of this. You know, you get a gig, and next thing you know, you get my original band, we get a record deal, you get the rug pulled out from you. That's just the way it is. That's the reality of it. You know. But I've always had this like lean forward mentality, and I wouldn't take anything off anyone that was negative about it. I only took the positives. So the newer generation, you got to remember that. There's a reason we do what we do. You know what I mean? And that love, I never forget the first time, my first couple years playing, how strong it felt. So if you get down, if you lose a record deal, or if a band fires you, or if you, just let that be a learning stepping stone.
Absolutely.
Pick yourself up, and there's something around the corner. If you have that burning passion for it, you're going to do it.
Fantastic. Well, you say to lean forward. And that's a great line that I see with you, because on the edge of life, you're standing right on the edge. When you, Ray Luzier, wants to see life, you look behind you, because you really are leaning forward at the highest pace in what you do. Continue the journey, because you are inspiring millions of people.
Thank you, man.
On behalf of the Sessions, Ray, we thank you so
brother.
much.
Thanks for having me.
Fantastic.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it.